Hello there. Your friends at Burger King welcome you to the adventures of Hansel and Gretel. We hope you'll enjoy this special story from the Burger King Fantasy Meal Collection.
Once upon a time, in a little cottage at the edge of a great forest, there lived a little boy named Hansel and his younger sister Gretel. Their mother had died when they were babies, and they lived with their father. Their father was a woodcutter who made little money, and they were very poor. Nevertheless, they lived happily together until the woodcutter brought home a new wife to be their stepmother.
There's barely enough food for the two of us. We must take the children into the woods and lose them.
What are you saying? You know I could never do that.
You must, or we'll all starve.
Did you hear what she said? We shall die in the forest alone.
Don't cry, little sister. I'll take care of you.
Hansel quickly formed a plan. While everyone else was asleep, he tiptoed outside and filled his pockets with shiny pebbles. At daybreak, the mean stepmother flung open the door of their room.
Get up, you lazy good-for-nothings. We're going into the forest to cut wood. Here's one slice of bread for each of you. You'd better save it until dinner time, because that's all you're going to get to eat today.
As they set out through the forest, Hansel stayed behind the others, dropping the shiny pebbles one by one as he walked. When they reached the darkest part of the forest, the woodcutter told Hansel and Gretel to build a small fire and keep warm, while he and his wife went to look for more wood to sell. After sitting by the fire for hours, Hansel and Gretel were so hungry they could wait no longer to eat their one piece of bread. Then, exhausted, they fell asleep. And when they awoke, night had fallen.
Oh, Hansel, what shall we do?
Courage, little sister. Remember, the pebbles. I dropped them along the way. They will shine like silver in the moonlight and lead us out of the forest.
They walked all night following the trail of shining pebbles. And at dawn, they saw their cottage.
Father, Father, we're home.
We're home.
No, thank God. Thank God. But although their father was delighted to see them, the cruel stepmother only scolded them for staying so long in the woods. Before many days had passed, their food was running low once more. Once again, Hansel and Gretel heard their stepmother's angry voice.
We must take them into the deepest part of the forest, and this time, we'll make sure they can never find their way back.
Early next morning, the stepmother once again gave Hansel and Gretel each one piece of bread.
That's all you're going to get today, so you'd better make it last.
When no one was looking, Hansel tore his bread into tiny crumbs, which he dropped along the trail as the family walked deep into the woods. Once again, Hansel and Gretel were told to build a fire and wait there, while their father and stepmother went looking for wood. Gretel shared her piece of bread with Hansel, since he had used his bread to make a trail through the woods. By this time, the children were very tired, and they soon fell asleep. When they awoke, it was dark.
Hansel, I'm scared. Let's hurry and follow the trail of breadcrumbs out of the forest.
The breadcrumbs have all disappeared. The birds must have eaten them.
Frightened and hungry, poor Hansel and Gretel wandered all night, and the next day, and through the next night, until, exhausted, they fell asleep. On the third day, when they could scarcely walk any farther, the silence of the forest was broken by a bird song, the loveliest they had ever heard.
Look, Hansel. He wants us to follow him.
Come on, let's go. We couldn't be any more lost than we are already.
Look, Hansel. He landed on the roof of that cottage.
Gretel, look! Look at the cottage.
Why, it looks good enough to eat.
It is good enough to eat. Oh, look, Gretel. Look, it's made of gingerbread and cake and candy. Oh, Gretel, try a piece of the roof.
It's delicious.
Hansel, have a piece of this window pane. It's made of sugar candy.
Just then they heard a voice from within the cottage.
Nibble, nibble like a mouse. Who is nibbling at my house?
Suddenly the door flew open and there stood an ugly, mean-looking old woman.
Welcome, my little darlings. Come right in.
The children were too frightened to disobey, so they went inside. And there the old woman fed them more goodies. Pancakes, apples, and candies of all kinds. After their feast, Hansel and Gretel were given soft, fluffy white beds and quickly fell asleep.
Now they're all mine. And won't they be delicious?
The old woman, you see, was really a wicked witch, and she intended to eat Hansel and Gretel. Next morning, the old witch suddenly yanked Hansel out of bed and locked him in a cage. He screamed and cried, but the old witch only laughed. Every day, poor Gretel was forced to carry food to her brother, knowing he was being fattened up just so the old witch could eat him. And every day, the old witch would say,
Let me feel your finger, my sweet, to see if you're fat enough to eat.
But Hansel, knowing the witch was almost blind, always stuck out a dry old chicken bone for her to feel. Finally, the old witch lost her patience.
Fat or thin, I'll wait no more. Gretel, make that fire roar.
And Gretel, crying bitterly, was forced to build a fire in the oven so the evil witch could cook poor Hansel.
Now, open the door, stick in your head, and tell me if the flames are red.
But Gretel pretended she didn't know how to open the oven door, so the witch opened it herself. Just as she leaned over to look at the fire, Gretel shoved her inside the oven and slammed the door. Gretel ran quickly to Hansel's cage and unlocked it. Together, the happy children searched the cottage, and in a closet they found a jewel box.
Look, Gretel. It's full of gold and diamonds and pearls.
Oh, we're rich, Hansel. We're rich.
Look, Gretel. It's the same white bird that led us here. Maybe he'll guide us home.
But he led us to the witch.
He only wanted to help us get something to eat. Come on, let's go.
Sure enough, the bird led them straight home. Their father was overjoyed to see them. He told them that their mean stepmother had gotten angry and run away. With their treasure of gold and precious jewels, Hansel and Gretel and their father were never hungry again. And so they lived happily ever after.
If you enjoyed listening to the adventures of Hansel and Gretel, you'll want to collect all the Burger King Fantasy Meal special stories. Other titles include Jack and the Beanstalk, The Three Little Pigs, and Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And thank you for visiting Burger King.